also known to you guys as Shaz Mackenzie. This is the third time I've tried to film this. I've filmed about two. I've filmed two. I've filmed like maybe 2 lots of 10 minutes or so of me rambling and not getting anywhere, because I think there's something very therapeutic right now about this idea of talking to a camera that is just me and there's no one else in this room. It's different to therapy. Like, I'm not talking to the psychologist. I was just letting it all out, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready to share that. And that's scary, and that's part of the issue. Like, we still have so much of ourselves that we're scared to share, when I shouldn't be scared to share it at all. It shouldn't be anything that I'm ashamed of. I should be not proud, but I should be very open about my struggles with depression and anxiety, because I'm not the only one that suffers from it. And I'm sure if you're watching this, then you might have at some point dealt with that, or you are someone who knows someone who has dealt with it. And that's the whole purpose of this, is to remind you that things are hard, but there's so many people out there that love you, and that there's so much more in the world than what you think at the moment, when everything feels like it's coming in around you and suffocating you, and it feels like no one's listening, and you're screaming for it's like you're screaming for help and you have no voice. That's the best way to describe when I'm in an absolute moment of and I say moment, but these moments, they last weeks. Like, they're not these quick second moments. They have little ups and downs. During these weeks, I can have days where I wake up and I think, yes, I've made it. I'm great. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to take on the world, and I'm going to do great this week, and nothing is going to get me down. And then an hour later, you'll find me on the floor of the shower crying. So it's hard. But I think the things that have helped me is, in my adult years, as a teenager, my parents, they didn't believe that mental health or like mental illness was real. They just thought you're sad, or you're stressed, or you're angry, or whatever. But it's not. The idea of there being a chemical imbalance in my brain just didn't possibly exist in their mind, and it was something that was created by my environment. It nurture, not nature, or whatever. So, whereas I believe mental illness is more of a nature, and yes, nurture will always come into effect in it, and certain situations in your life will bring on episodes, but I find that it can be the best things in the world are happening, and you have every reason that you should be ecstatic. But if you are going through an episode, it will not matter. And it doesn't matter how many people tell you, look at all this cool stuff that's happening and how great your life is and all these things you've got to live for. It won't matter. It just won't. And I think that's something that people get really scared to talk about. Like, it's not necessarily these horribly traumatic events like that have led to these moments, but they do. Don't get me wrong. The horribly traumatic events that have happened in my life have definitely contributed to the way that I react to things. And there's times where I struggle a lot worse because it's a certain time of year where I'm reminded of situations, or certain people are in my life that I don't want in my life, things like that. But I think a lot of it is that unless you've really, really struggled with mental health, I think it's very hard for people to comprehend that it is something that you can't help. It is just part of your brain. So about 6 or 7 years ago now, I finally went to a doctor and got on medication, and from then I think you can even see it in just my life, my career as a professional wrestler, my presence as a person. You can see the increasing confidence of who I was prior to being medicated to who I am after being medicated. And I'm not embarrassed to be medicated. I think people get stressed. They think it's a weird thing to rely on medication and antidepressants to get through life. But I think there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I have a disease. I am not my disease. My illness is not who I am. It's just part of my brain. And by taking this many milligrams of fluoxetine a day, my brain manages to figure it out a bit better, and I function a lot better, and I'm happier, I'm better to be around, I'm not miserable, I'm not crying, I'm not trying to break things, I'm just a better person to be around, for not just me, my husband, my family, my friends, like my colleagues at work. But yeah, and I think that's something that's really scary for people, because people want to try and own the illness and think that it's going to get better, even if there's there's a chemical imbalance in your brain. And I think people get so like stressed about manning up and just dealing with it, and you're gonna figure it out, but you don't have to. You can speak to someone. You don't have to go on medication. That's just what works for me. Medication, when I know I feel like a completely different person, when I'm eating right, when I'm exercising, when I'm meditating, when I'm getting enough sleep. Like, these are all things that I know if I do these things, my mental health will increase dramatically. And sometimes it's not enough, and sometimes you just need to have your senses of routine and these things that you know will help you feel better. And you don't have to man up. You can talk to someone. Like, I go to therapy very regularly. I'm not very good at it. I don't think you get to be good or bad at therapy. I just talk a lot of crap, and then my therapist makes me realize that I'm pretty good at life. Or I think that's what she's supposed to do. But, like, it makes things seem a little less daunting and a little less scary. If you just talk about it, and there might be other ways to deal with it. There's everyone deals with their illnesses different ways, and if you're dealing with a loved one that has an illness, a mental illness, there's different ways that you will cope with it. And I've had different people in my life that have dealt with it in different ways, and it's hard. But I think the whole purpose of these little videos is to remind everyone that no matter how hard it is, there's so many people out there that are willing to help you. And even though it might feel like you are screaming and trying to yell for help, but your voice box is broken and there's the roof caving down on you, because I know that's what it feels like sometimes, because I've felt that. Just trust me that these people are out there. People are out there. People care about you. I care about you. There's always places you can go. There's people you can talk to. There's always something to live for, and there's always something. You never know what tomorrow is going to bring. Even on the worst days, tomorrow could be completely different. So you just have to keep going and remember that you're not alone. Your illness does not define you, and that you are loved.